This topic explores the history of voting rights in the United States, major legislation affecting suffrage, and different models that political scientists use to explain why people vote the way they do. Please consider subscribing to this channel to encourage better content creation and future updates. We appreciate your support in advance. Voting rights in the United States have expanded over time through constitutional amendments, landmark legislation, and Supreme Court rulings. Initially, voting was limited to white, land-owning men. Some states imposed religious qualifications. By the Jacksonian era, most states removed property requirements, allowing most white men to vote, prohibited voting discrimination based on race. However, southern states implemented Jim Crow laws like literacy tests, poll taxes, and grandfather clauses to suppress black voters, granted women the right to vote, granted Native Americans U.S. citizenship and the right to vote, eliminated poll taxes which were used to disenfranchise poor and black voters, outlawed literacy tests, authorized federal oversight in states with histories of voter suppression, led to a significant increase in black voter registration, lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, reflecting concerns over young people being drafted into the Vietnam War without having a say in elections, struck down part of the Voting Rights Act, ending federal pre-clearance for certain states with histories of voter suppression, led to the implementation of voter ID laws and other measures critics argue suppressed voter turnout. Political scientists use different models to explain how and why people vote the way they do. Assumes that voters make decisions based on their best interest. Voters weigh the costs and benefits of policies, candidates or party platforms before voting. Example: a small business owner votes for a candidate promising tax cuts because it benefits their financial interests. Voters base their decisions on past performance of a candidate or party. If the economy was strong under a president, voters may re-elect them. If it was weak, they may vote for a change. Example: in 1992, many voters turned against President George H.W. Bush due to a weak economy. Voters make decisions based on predictions of future policies. Instead of looking at past performance, they focus on candidates' promises. Example: a voter chooses a candidate because they promise to address climate change. Voters consistently support candidates from their preferred political party. This model is common among strong partisans who rarely switch their votes. Example: a lifelong Democrat votes for the Democratic candidate in every election, regardless of the specific policies or candidates. Various demographic, institutional, and political factors impact voter participation. Age: older individuals tend to vote at higher rates than younger people. Education: higher levels of education correlate with higher voter turnout. Income: wealthier individuals are more likely to vote than lower income individuals. Historically, Black and Latino voters faced barriers to voting. Today, racial minorities still tend to have lower turnout compared to white voters. Gender: women have voted at slightly higher rates than men since the 1980s. Some states require registration weeks before Election Day, which reduces turnout. Voter ID laws can make it harder for some populations, like the elderly and low-income individuals, to vote. Elections are held on Tuesdays, which can be inconvenient for workers. Some states restrict the voting rights of felons, limiting participation. The belief that one's vote matters increases the likelihood of voting. Individuals involved in community organizations or political groups are more likely to vote. Strong party loyalty can drive turnout. Turnout is highest in presidential elections, about 55 to 60%. Midterm elections have lower turnout, around 35 to 40%. Turnout is often lower in state and local elections. Turnout has generally increased in recent years, especially among young voters and minorities. Efforts like mail-in voting and same-day registration have contributed to higher participation. Allows voters to register and vote on the same day. Makes voting more accessible. Allows voter registration at the DMV. Political parties and activist groups encourage voter participation. In summary, Voting rights and voter behavior are crucial elements of American democracy. Over time, suffrage has expanded, but voter turnout remains affected by various structural and individual factors. Understanding these dynamics helps explain electoral outcomes and the health of democratic participation.